Hair color trends 2022. In my previous video, I talked about haircut trends. So you can check this, I'm gonna leave the link down below, but today we're gonna talk just about colors. And yes, colors can also be trendy or not trendy. Now, I can't imagine how ginger hair color, like a copper hair color, can be actually on trend. It's so bright, it's so intense normally. Well, of course, when it's intense, it's pretty intense. And also, it's a warm color. So it's very far normally on that temperature level. Even if they're like a cooler ginger color, so cooler copper colors, they're still slightly warming up unless they are very much Bordeaux or pinkish Bordeaux colors. But we're not talking about this. We're talking about copper and ginger. So they have slightly golden undertones, which probably is not for every lady out there. I lately can see this on Afro-American women with black skin, with very dark skin, or with slightly lighter or reddish skin. That actually looks very cool because the intensity of their skin is enough to handle that. You know, they look great with those bright colors. Also, the concept itself of this color is pretty bright, so it has to pretty much go along with the style you're wearing, with the colors you're wearing on your face, what is the color of your skin and your eyes. If we talk about full glam top to the bottom, that is a bit different situation. With lashes, with intense black lash line, you're already accentuating your eyes, so probably that can look slightly fairy tale-ish, but still it can work. If we talk about everyday style and situation, that can a little bit be too much. Somehow it became a trend, and also there are tons of different nuances of red colors. Even if we talk about just copper and ginger, I have to do a separate video about ginger color, something similar to what I've done. Would you look good with blonde hair color? Would you look good with black hair color? I'm gonna leave the links down below on those if you're interested. So that's gonna be one of those videos for red color. So trend number 2, light at the front, and just highlights in general. Balayage is not going anywhere. It's been on trend for many years right now, and I think it's one of the most long-lasting trends for hair colors, probably second after the natural hair color, probably, or overall hair color. Of course, because that technique is giving us very sun-kissed effect of the hair. It's not sore to the eyes, as opposed to very stripy by the roots, right? Remember in the 90s? So this is so calm, and that what I like about it, you can dress it up or dress it down. Imagine a girl having no makeup, having this kind of a hair, and she's dressed in something very simple, and she's going to the field, very close to nature. In this case, this kind of hair looks very organic and very balanced because they do look like sun-kissed when the blend is done correctly. And also, on the other hand, I can imagine a woman with this kind of a hair color is doing a full glam, being pretty sleek, making everything very polished and tidy. So I think those two things are very close to each other. And another benefit from this is you can actually do it once and then not do it anymore. And your hair is growing and basically looks very nice all the time, because the border between light and the dark is so seamless and it's so blended. In several months, it's gonna start, instead of here, it's gonna start here. So that has loads of benefits. And another benefit, actually, that some women are scared to go blonde. You can leave alone, first of all, hair in the back completely, then do it just on top hair, just partially, just some of it, just by the face. You still will look blonde. If you're new, I'm gonna leave the link down below on my body types series, so you will find out which body type you are. So for classics, it can be slightly noisy still. Even all those balayages. If the balayage is not very contrasted though, it can look pretty nice. When the contrast is super big, this is when it can mess up a little bit. They're balanced classic features. It can actually add that noise unnecessary for the eyes. But for other women, I think that's great. It just depends more on how contrasted you want to go. I have a video about balayage. I'm gonna leave the link down below. So balayage for your face shape, 2 parts of this video. Number 3, and probably it should have been number 1 actually. It is undyed hair or naturally gray hair, salt and pepper gray or white. So before, it wasn't trendy. Women were just dyeing their hair. It has happened probably 6 or 7 years ago first, when women started letting their gray hair grow. We see more and more mature models out there. Some women still, they don't like how their gray hair is. Like, they would prefer their gray hair to actually be grayer than they are, because if there is some percentage they just don't like it, they prefer whether there or there. So some of them still dye their hair. Some women say, oh, I don't like that my hair is like salt and pepper, I would prefer it to be just white. No, it's the nature gave you that balayage, basically, that contrasted dark and light strikes that is making it even more interesting. It's like natural coloration. And also women who never dye their hair. What can be more trendy than that? Natural hair, it's never same color. If you really look closer at natural hair of a person, every hair almost is slightly different color. So that creates that natural dimension that you will not find in hair dyes. Every time you dye your hair in a one certain color, this color is always uniform. We don't pay much attention on women having hair colors, but men color their hair rarer than women. So this is when you can actually see what real hair dye is doing sometimes to men's hair. Sometimes it's unnaturally uniform color, unnaturally same color. And even though the hair dye itself can be pretty natural looking, it can be, for example, it can be that ashy blonde color. It looks very uniform, very much same color, because our natural hair color is very multi-dimensional. So yeah, as I said, undyed hair, just make sure it looks tidy. Number 4, mushroom hair. Mid-brown color with slightly ashy undertone in it. So mushroom, it's pretty much like a neutral color. It's not very warm, but it's not very cool as well because it's brown. So brown, it does have some orange undertone in it. Yeah, but mushroom is still like more to a cooler color brown. If you've seen this video, what nobody tells you about hair color, I'm explaining exactly what brown color is. I'm gonna leave the link down below. So this mushroom hair color is pretty tricky because, first of all, some women have it naturally, okay? Many women from north up there, from Europe, they have this naturally, along with very cool undertoned, very pale skin and pretty light or hazel eyes. Also not very dark or not very light, not very clear. So that gives the whole appearance some kind of an ashiness. I'm gonna separate all women on earth on more northern girls and two more south girls. It's a huge generalization, I know. So south girls have brighter coloration, more intense colors in nature. Northern girls, they normally are paler, but let's just imagine, yeah? So they have kind of that natural mushroomish hair color, which several decades ago, that was #1 color to get rid of. That was a color not to have because 1920s Hollywood, bleached blonde, something bright, something that would be nice on camera, especially black and white camera. Just imagine that mushroom color on black and white camera. The tone would be somewhere in the middle. The color would be somewhere in the middle. First of all, there's no color, so we can only see the depth of tone, the darkness. So the darkness would be not there, not there. So that would be something very strange, and the light reflection is not correct, and all that kind of like not very glamorous looking. So of course, if we see those gorgeous blonde girls on camera, in the films, in Hollywood movies, how amazing that looks when it's black and white, first of all, because it gives that huge contrast. Later they started having that colored movies, okay, but the colors still were not very good quality. Now we have extremely good cameras on our phones, which is making such a realistic photo, including the colors too. So every shade is now important. Every shade is now unique, playing with more undertones, midtones, right? So this mushroom color is actually a pretty complicated color. It's not even easy to get this hair color. And again, if you've seen this video, you remember, when you dye your hair and then you toned it, you have amazing tone, but then what is the #1 color that leaves first, that washes out? Blue color, right? Blue, and then we have yellow and red, right? So yellow and red stay. So when you're making this mushroom color of your hair, it's very often that in a very short time that becomes brassy again. So red and yellow stay there, and so they become orangey. And the blue color is the first one then to leave this hair. And the blue color is extremely important in a certain proportion to create that mushroom, beautiful mushroom effect. I would say that the king of mushroom hair color, personally for me, is, for now, Munir. He lives in Lebanon. His Instagram, his YouTube channel are super famous. You also probably have seen it. And most of women who go to him, who has pretty intense coloration, thick, dark hair, and he was the one who just made this blonde dream happen for them. So of course, first day, it looks amazing. Of course, in some time, some of his clients come back to him in some time, in several months. And of course, hair already grows, and the blue color, of course, goes away. So they end up being with that brassy hair. So he's doing it again, making that pretty blonde again. But there are loads of different shades of this mushroom hair, from a very blonde mushroom hair to a darker brown ashy hair. And all those tones are very interesting, beautiful, and they're pretty hard to get. And I think this is why it's trendy, beautiful transformations on YouTube, on TikTok, having from the dark hair that kind of a beautiful shiny blonde with that mushroom, very expensive, very complicated color, northern girl kind of a hair color. And if you ask me, I think if we imagine northern girl having intense southern girl hair color, it's a bit worse than if a southern girl is wearing northern girl hair color. I think they can pull it off a little bit more, because we're still talking about features. We're talking about eyes, skin color, so it should be accentuated in a correct way, right? So if a northern girl is wearing something extremely bright, they can actually overshout her, make it look like a wig slightly too overshouting, slightly too unnatural, and almost like a synthetic hair wig. But if a southern girl is wearing northern girl hair color, like a mushroom blonde, then it looks very unusual, interesting, something that hasn't been before. But again, for some women like this, I think that sometimes can be a little bit washing out their features, so you can always check for your contrast and what is happening. For women with contrasted, darker, in more intense coloration, in some cases that mushroom hair can look like gray hair. Just keep that in mind, which nothing bad in gray hair, but it just can be not a desired thing, not a goal in this case. So just keep that in mind, especially when they're doing this striky balayage on the dark hair with very silverish and bright blonde strikes. This also is making them look slightly like gray on top. But in general, I think they more can pull that off. Number 5 is blonde hair color. Blonde is brown and blonde. So basically this is more or less same that I told you about, that balayage. Blonde on your brown hair. Some women who are light, they do low light instead of highlight, so they color their roots brown. We just have to see about the amount of contrast you want to go for. Some women look better with a bigger contrast. Some women look better with more blended contrast. This is the trend that is staying for a long time. Number 6 is baby lights bangs. And it started, I think, some time ago. Baby light bangs is a very thin light right by your face, and then not so much on the rest of your hair or on the top of the rest of your hair. But here you have those 2 small blonde stripes. It just depends on which technique you use. If it's just that and then the rest of the hair is slightly darker, then it can look slightly unnatural, but still I think this is as a part of balayage technique, especially if it's just slightly lighter. I think that's very nice. It's sometimes really make your face, skin shine and making your eyes pop. When it's not very good sometimes, I think, is when the baby light bangs is same color as the skin and then it goes dark brown. So from the distance it looks like it's blending, like the front hair is kind of slightly bold, it's blending with the skin, with the face. It looks maybe a bit wider even, yeah, and then hair starts a bit higher. So just watch for that if there's disproportion in there. Just in general, yeah, and I think it's a great way just to try blonde on yourself too, if you don't want to go blonde overall. And also it's so easy to do at home. You always go from the little here more here, but we're going to talk about this in 1 week. Okay, so and the last trend, number 7, is muted colors, not as bright. I don't understand again how it can be that much of a trend as well, because first of all, the brightness and darkness of our hair sometimes changes like crazy, especially if you dye your hair, if you tone them. Sometimes you have like a freshly dyed hair, then you tone them, and then every wash the color is changing, your hair is becoming whether brighter or on contrary more dull. So there's a lot of variety in that. So maintaining just because it's a trend, I think it's not a nice idea. Muted colors, yeah, I can see sometimes it can actually be more expensive looking than those bright colors. But again, I think what more we have to look at is personal characteristic of a person and her facial features and her skin and her coloration. I think that is much more important when you choose to go brighter or duller. Now if you click here, you will find out what nobody tells you about hair color. And in just several minutes, you will be much more educated about the whole subject of coloration of the hair. Stay tuned for my anti-trends video next week. So for that, just click subscribe and click the bell button. Also, you can subscribe on my Patreon and click the join here to support me. Thank you guys, and bye-bye.